You may already know how to heal with a specific class in World of Warcraft, but do you know the best healing add-on to use to make your journey as smooth sailing as possible? Well, I'm going to be showing you how to use VuhDo, my favourite healing add-on, and arguably the best one you can get. Hello, my name is Javier, and I am here to help you with every aspect of World of Warcraft, whether that be class guides, PvP guides, or now add-on guides as well. Starting off in-game here, we're going to look at the VuhDo add-on, specifically from the mini-map icon it places in the game. You can see this as a blood elf head here on the mini-map. And we're going to left click this to open the main menu for VuhDo. You will see it's quite a complex looking menu, but don't let that scare you. I'm going to be showing you all of the core components that I think you need to know to succeed, without showing you any of the extra bits and bobs that you don't need. Starting off with the General tab, we can filter out some of our panels. What are panels, may you ask? Well, you can see Group 1 here, Heavy Rune Rock. I can left click this to cast a healing spell. And these are our VuhDo raid frames. So this is what VuhDo is actually adding into your game, enabling you to heal through them. So maybe we're on our own and we don't want to show them, or we want to filter out certain people of these panels. We can lock the panels here on the left, and then we can hide the panels in certain situations here while also filtering out certain people. I generally don't use this, but maybe if you're just on your own in the world, you don't want to use it. To do that, we would click solo to hide it when we're on our own. And you can see then the raid panel disappears from my screen. A lot of the other options on the General tab, in my opinion, are a lot more advanced that we don't need to go into today. The next tab we are looking at, however, is spells, and this is arguably the most important one. If we go up to mouse on the top right, in spells, you can see I have mouse key. Left button, Healing Surge, right button, Chain Heal, and middle button, Riptide. If we then hover my mouse over the raid frame, you can see that when I left click on that raid frame, it is going to heal me for Healing Surge. If I use a right click, it will do a chain heal, and of course middle button being that Riptide. Basically, with that mouse key section, whatever you plug into there is what is going to be healed when you use that mouse button on your raid frames. And there are a few different ways that we can actually change what spell we're going to use. One is by using the modifier key, like Control. When I hover and click on Control, you can see that the spells being shown under mouse key have changed, and it's now left button showing Primordial Wave, meaning if I hold down Control on my keyboard and left click, it will do Primordial Wave. Whereas if I just left click normally, it will do the Healing Surge. We can also use Alt plus Control plus Shift, Shift, etc. And there's also a section for up and down for your mouse wheel, meaning when I use the down mouse wheel, you can see here it's doing Earth Shield. Or if I scroll up, it will use Purify Spirit. How do we actually get these spells in here? Well, you can just literally type them in, as you can see here, or you can actually drag them in from your spellbook. Dragging here, Earth Shield over into left button will change it automatically to Earth Shield for you. We can also go into Keys Local and press Add, adding completely new key bindings that will be used when you hover over your raid frames in VuhDo as well. But generally, on all healers, I haven't found that I've needed to. And the best way is just using the mouse buttons in here. If we go into the MISC tab, there's some really interesting ones in here. First, looking at the left under Miscellaneous, we can see that we've got the Stop Cast. If we tick this, you can see then that when I left click to do my Healing Surge, obviously that goes off. If I click it and then click again, you can actually see that it's cancelling the spell when I click over it to do a new one. If you're wondering why I would do that, well, let's say you're about to cast Healing Surge, but there may be something procs, meaning that your Healing Surge is to be even more powerful and you don't want to waste the mana. Therefore, you can click again and it will overwrite that spell. If we unclick this and then use Healing Surge, you can see nothing happens if I keep clicking when I'm already casting a spell. We can also have our smart casts here for Resurrection, Cleanse and Battle Resing, meaning that we will cleanse automatically before healing if we're outside of combat. We can automatically just click the person to resurrect them. So if someone has died on your raid frame, you can just left click and it will literally just resurrect them without having to key in resurrect into those keybinds. The same thing with battle reses. Do be careful with that. You don't want to battle res when you're not meant to. You could also put a modifier key on here to avoid those pesky accidents. And there's also a hostile tab, meaning if you use hostiles on your raid frames, what buttons can we use to actually do certain things against them, like maybe a DPS spell. The next tab along we have is buffs. This generally is revolving around the buff bar or the buff tracker as we have it in VuhDo, and if we go down to general, we can enable it. Up the top left here, you can see we've got VuhDo Buff Watch. And if we go to config, I can tick this for something like Bloodlust, for example. And you can see then it's changed to red, showing that I'm missing Bloodlust. If you are a priest and you're missing something like Fortitude or Inner Fire, maybe you could put this on to make sure that you haven't forgotten to reapply it. Maybe for us as a shaman, we could use Lightning Shield. You can see then it's adding 2 rather than 1 spell to that shield. Or sorry, to that Buff Watch. Then, going on to the panels section, this one can get really, really in-depth. Looking at it simply, we're looking at what we're actually doing to the panels. Do we want them grouped? Do we want them loose? Where you can see here it's taking off the title of what group they're in. We can say how many max columns or rows do we want for each group. I have the max columns as 10 and the max rows as 5, so that group 1 will not actually be in the same column to group 2. Generally, you can leave this as default, and you're not going to have any problems with it. The sizing as well is a tab that is going to affect the sizing of the actual bars. If you're short, I was going to say short of hearing. If you're short-sighted, etc., or long-sighted, or can't see them, then you may want to make them bigger, or you may want them smaller, etc., depending on your UI. You can do that here. The rest of it is really just changing how the bar looks. If you would actually like to get them to look like mine, or you just overall do like my overall UI, you can get this via my Patreon. This is the absolute best way to support me as a creator. I have loads of early access guides, written guides, collections, including my UI and other resources for you on there that I just know you are going to find really, really useful, especially if you're a new player. It also opens up a VIP channel in Discord where you can get priority support from me and our other class and healing tank and DPS experts to get any questions you have answered as quickly as possible. And again, if you would like my entire UI, you can download that from my Patreon. And we can help you with that if you're not sure how as well. One other thing I want to mention in the panels is indicators. This is a really interesting one where you can add some extra things depending on what is happening. You can see here that we have special dot, which means swift mendable. If you're a druid, basically there is a trigger where we can only use swift mend on certain people if they have certain clauses already applicable. Like if they have rejuvenation on them, we can use swift mend. That will add that red dot if you can use swift mend on that target. And there's a lot of different options we can use here to do that with. There might be a certain fight where someone has a certain debuff and you want to know when they've got that debuff on them, and you could manually add that in through here. There's also a threat bar that you can add, seeing who has threat, a mana bar, the bar backgrounds and health bars, etc, etc. If you don't know what you're doing too much, I would just leave it as it is. In colours, the main thing I would look at is the debuffs. Basically, if you tick these, it will change the colour of somebody's raid frame depending if they have a curse or magic effect on them, so you know if you should be dispelling them or not. And lastly, tools. This is where you're going to import any profiles that you may have, maybe from my Patreon, for example. And you can just press import here and get that in. I do have a separate guide for Patreons if you are struggling for that, by the way. And lastly, move. This is literally how you can move your panels around, and you can drag them out on their own, or you can place them into a set group like this, moving them all around at once. You can also delete ones that you don't want, like maybe pets. And that is everything you need to know to get going and hit the ground running in VuhDo, so that you can heal really, really efficiently. Now, if you do have any other questions on how this add-on works, please do join my Discord where we can help you out. It's a very beginner-friendly community, and we really are there to make sure that you have the best time possible in World of Warcraft. And as I said earlier, you can also join my Patreon, where you can get access to a ton of extra written guides, early access videos, and resources, including my UI, that are really, really going to help you. If you would also like to see VuhDo in action, or some of the classes that I do cover on this channel, please do follow me on Twitch, as I do stream very regularly over there, doing all sorts of different content, from beta testing, Pandaria Remix, or retail, Mythic Plus, and raids. There are going to be other add-on guides coming for you shortly, so please do click that subscribe button, let me know your comments below so you don't miss out.